Focus on love. Love what's in focus. Aim for above because the ceiling's bogus. Focus on love. Love what's in focus. Aim for above because the ceiling is bogus. Focus on love. Love what's in focus. Aim for above because the ceiling.
Welcome to the next episode of Famous Rapper Convos. This is the show where we help rappers create connections online. Today, I'm connecting with Z the Free. We're going to talk about the magic of hip hop, our human journeys, freestyle magic, maybe touch on voice acting a little bit, Dragon Ball Z, anime, and of course, as always, we're having fun vibing. I am your host, David Pro Rock. You already know me, but who is Z the Free?
Hello.
Hey, Z the Free. It's nice to meet you.
What's good? It is nice to meet you too through this online world that allows us to connect.
Yes. And just so you know, I'm already recording.
Cool.
And how are you doing today?
I'm very grateful. It's sunny and beautiful. Yeah, and I try and stay in gratitude even when the world is heavy. So I'm just grateful to be alive and grateful that I have creativity as an outlet. How are you?
Amazing. I'm doing pretty well. I was feeling a little bit sick earlier, but I just came back to Oakland from visiting my family for the last 3 weeks, kind of like a vacation. So I'm feeling refreshed. And so I went for a short walk today and took a bath.
Oh, baths are so good. I've heard Oakland is actually pretty live. I would like to go to Oakland one day. Was there like something that stood out for you about the visit?
I live in Oakland. Yeah, and it's amazing. You should definitely visit. You've never been here?
It's on my list, actually. Oakland's on the spot.
What's at the top of the list?
In terms of American cities that I haven't been to yet, I try to go to LA like every year because I love it so much. Obviously with COVID, I haven't been there. But I would like to go, it's like, there's a bunch obviously, but like Orlando, I would like to go to Chicago. I would really like to go to Baltimore, and Oakland is there. Yeah, maybe some of the Swampy Zone. Some of those, like, I don't know, iconic spaces. And obviously some spaces that like have big roots in hip hop are appealing to me. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So Z the Free, are you ready to get this interview started?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So I was just wondering, who is Z the Free?
Well, Z the Free, in starting, she is a settler woman who grew up on Treaty 7 territory. So I grew up very much in like the mountains and forests of Alberta, and I was really lucky to just have a huge childhood in nature with lots of music. Both my parents are creatives. And throughout my life, I've always just been continuously drawn to human stories and how we connect and form community, that sense of kind of like tangible belonging. And so I was always into creative spaces. I started being a voice actor when I was very young. I was 11 years old. So I like lived in the studio from the time I was like 11, like forever until now. And then with my own words and performing, I started in spoken word poetry. But hip hop is just so dope. And I've always listened to hip hop and loved hip hop since I was way, way young. I mean, I feel like one of the first hip hop artists I connected to, I credit him as that. It was Bob Marley. I used to love his song, I Shot the Sheriff, and he had that like flow and it just like stuck with me. And so I got into rap through a really just great community of humans that I was linked to and started freestyling and formed various different groups, Cypherclub, started doing lots of youth work with hip hop. And so Z the Free is like a creative and a community builder, and an advocate for different spaces and social justice. She's badass, she's wild, she loves nature, she's a free spirit, and she's grateful that people are curious about her because that, everybody has a story. So thanks for being interested in mine.
You're so welcome. Wow, that's amazing. So I Shot the Sheriff was your first favorite hip hop song? I didn't even know
And
that was
like
a hip hop song.
Bob Marley isn't necessarily a hip hop artist, but to me, it's like the cadence and the pocket and the music. Like to me, hip hop, I define it as anything that I feel, and that it's very heavy on meaning. It was started by Black and Latino youth who were trying to communicate their lived experience in spaces where there was no attention or validation for their lived experience. And so I feel like that song by Bob Marley, it links in those same ways that a lot of the meaning in hip hop is there too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
To be honest, I've never really like listened to that song that deeply, but
You sure?
I will after
You check
this.
it.
I will,
Yeah.
100%. Cool. Wow. So you've done a lot of different creative, you've had many different creative outlets, voice acting, spoken word. What are they? List all of them. What's everything that you've ever tried and enjoyed as a creative?
I'm not gonna put you through that. I'm not gonna list off the resume, but I am a very free person. I love my rap name. It was gifted to me. I designed the Z because it's a combination of Zoe, which is my real given name, which means life, which I really love, and she, which to me represents like divine feminine, the strength and power of women, women's voices. And so the free was added on. And it's not only just because I'm a freestyler, but I really do move with the flow of life. So I feel like I've dabbled in everything that's creative, because it's like creativity to me is expansive. And I want to live in a way that's expansive. I'm super privileged with the body and space and where I grew up. And so I'm able to tap into a lot of things that are like playful and exploratory. And I really want to encourage others to come into those spaces, because that's what I think helps us feel alive and connect to each other. So that's why there's meaning there for me. So if it's creative and it's fun and it's wild or it's different, I'm like, all right, I'll try it. Let's try it. Some of them stick. Some of them you just try once.
Yeah, I'm this exact same way. I did a lot of that when I was visiting home the last few weeks.
Good.
Like I did Taekwondo.
Nice.
For the first time, I did two lessons. So I'm still a white belt. Well, I don't even think I have a belt, so beltless, but it was fun.
The process of beginning is the process of creativity. Like it literally is just this thing of being like open to it. You know, that's such a creative thing, just being open. And also like being aware of like, oh, I've never tried this before. I want to see what that's like. So good for you.
Yeah, thanks. Are there any hobbies that you tried that you immediately knew that you didn't like it wasn't for you?
Yeah, any group sport activities, to be real. Like I love working out. I love appreciating my body. I went through a phase where I was younger where I really didn't take care of my body. I was into a party phase. I did lots of drugs. I was more in escape mode. And when I started to learn that working out and getting kind of in like a meditative Zen space, that's what it's like for me, could also give me a high, and that I could also get the same high from performing and like connecting with people and feeling meaningful in those spaces. It was a very important shift for me in my life. And so I thought that could translate with playing sports as a group, and like it just doesn't for me. I think I get overwhelmed with like, oh, I have to really know how to do this. But in particular, several tragedies with just frisbee throwing, you know, just like throwing a frisbee around the park, which some people would love, has just never gone well for me. Just like bleeding noses and like, yeah, just
Oh, wow.
yeah. So if you ever want to like hang with me in like a physical realm, I don't know, we'll hang out after the gym, we'll go make music or go for a walk together.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So I saw on your Instagram story today that you are doing a talk on sports.
Yeah, which is funny actually, because I have many, I guess, pillars to my identity, as we all do. So I'm also in academia. I'm currently doing my master's in anthropology and film. And it's funny because I ended up in university as a almost mistake. I barely graduated high school. I was very lucky that I had some support people at my school who worked pulling some strings to give me extra work credits to graduate, because I have like grade 10 math. I don't have chemistry. I don't have biology. all in high school, I thought I was not smart, and I was in the studio a lot, and I just didn't engage with school. But my granny made a bet with me around the time of my life that I was a little off the rails with partying adventures. And she bet me that I wouldn't go to university for a year and stay. And she knows that I'm a stubborn lioness. And so I took the challenge and I loved it. And I've stayed with it because it was the first time where I realized that, oh, if you go to university, you can pick what you want to learn. And most of the time, there's professors who really care about what they're teaching and they really engage with you. And there's a lot of like academic bureaucracy that's brutal and a lot of colonial systems and things we got to work on. But I want to get in the system to change it from the inside out. And so all of that to say that currently in doing this realm of like my study, I did honors research where I was curious about how humans develop a sense of belonging. And a lot of in hip hop, it's a lot of newcomer and a lot of males. And so we would just talk about their stories of coming to Canada and how they were developing a connection and what it meant for them. And sport was a piece of that. For a lot of them, playing soccer was how they made friends, started to learn English, learned about Canadian systems. So that's actually what I did my honors research on, was how play specifically allows newcomer males to develop a sense of belonging and connection to being in a new space. Because I really think that play is something that is important to value in our world. We often dismiss play, and I think that play is something, if we had it at the forefront of our adult lives as well, I think it would help our culture to be in a healthier space.
That makes sense. So speaking of like a sense of belonging, so I kind of recently moved to Oakland. Like I moved here, I'm in a new space, but I moved like right when all the shutdowns started last year.
Wow.
Yeah. And so like, I don't really have that strong of a sense of belonging. And I'm wondering like, how can I have a belonging that's even stronger here than I have like when I was visiting home the last 3 weeks?
I celebrate you being brave in going somewhere new, because I think that that's one of the challenges that we can explore on our journey of being alive. And so it's valuable, I think, for us all to leave our comfort zones in some way, because when we leave our comfort zones, that allows us to meet new people and form relationships with people that we maybe otherwise wouldn't have. And for me, a big part of really actively working towards things like anti-racism, anti-homophobia, those things, it means you have to meet people that are different than you and realize like, oh, I've never met a person like this, but we both really, really love this Chance the Rapper song. And suddenly you have like a connection with them. And it's much more difficult for you to other them when you've created a connection of some kind. So when you move and you go to a new space, even though it feels incredibly isolating at first and there's all this comfort you leave, it's allowing you to like branch and form these other relationships that are a part of making the world a better place and like combating those things that are so detrimental, like racism or sexism or transphobia, those things. And so in you moving, you've taken a big step in getting to know yourself better. And I think that it is easiest for us to belong when we are living as our authentic selves, because then we're going to probably attract or connect with other humans who are also living in their authentic selves. And then we can have like a meaningful relationship. Then we can have like meaningful dialogue and do things that we both think are dope and raise each other up. So I would encourage you, even though COVID is weird, to look at getting involved in things like volunteering. That's a huge one. Look at boards, like boards. We think of boards for like an organization, but arts organizations have boards, youth organizations have boards, art galleries have boards. They're volunteering, but they let you know about events that those things are happening. So, you know, maybe even a record label has a board and you are like, hey, can I be on your board and learn about how this works? So volunteering is huge to meet people. Other things like putting yourself out there. So like not being afraid to strike up conversations in the grocery store or whenever, like just being meaningfully looking at someone on public transit, like it's okay. And obviously respecting and consenting if they're open to your communication or not. And then getting outside of your house in a safe way. I know it's still very much pandemic times, but you have to be out in the world to connect to the world and to meet people. And so it's like presenting yourself with energy. So making sure you're taking care of yourself, so when you go out in the world, you can be smiling and feeling good, and that people then feel like you're somebody that maybe they want to connect with and know more about.
Interesting. So, okay, you said a lot there, but going out, like, do you go for walks in places where there are people and engage with them?
Yes, I do. Okay, literally, when I started Cypherclub in Calgary, YYC, I still do this. I do this. I will walk up to somebody, especially if they're like wearing headphones or something, and be like, yo, like, what are you listening to? Are you listening to hip hop? Do you rap? Would you like to rap? I have this crew. You should come rap with us. And there's a lot of Cypherclub members who are like, yeah, Z literally like came up to me on the street and was like, hey, are you into hip hop? Because I always look at it as like, maybe it comes from like a background because I did a lot of improv, but it's like things are going to go one of two ways. And so long as you're being respectful and reading the situation, and that just comes with living with awareness of maybe where someone's at or what they might need. I think humans like to interact with each other if you're coming at it from a place of like love. So they're either going to be like, yeah, cool, or they're going to be like, no, you know, and you'll be like, okay, like, have a great day. Like it just never really goes in a negative way. You know, there's only two options to it. So why not? You might form a meaningful connection. And I think if you like approach people and you're like, hey, I'm new here, that's such a great line to be able to create like kind of some empathy, is like, hey, I'm new here and it's COVID, and is there anywhere you really love to walk, or like where's the best place to get pizza, or like something you want to do, and they'll genuinely tell you, and maybe they're like, hey, we can go together, you know.
Wow. Okay, so you're saying like you try to bring the right energy to it, and then you know that there's only like a certain number of ways that it's going to go, and you feel prepared that you'll be able to handle each of those situations, so then you feel comfortable going forward with the initial action.
And I mean, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. I've had some wild situations that have transpired because I do trust people, and sometimes they'll be like, yeah, come with me to this place, and sometimes you're like, oh man, what have I gotten myself into? But like sometimes it's really amazing. One time I followed a dude and we went like under this bridge and it was super dark, and I was like, this is not a good situation. But he had all this graph paint set up there and then these lights, and then we just did this amazing graffiti session, and then it was like, okay, cool, sweet, see you later. So I do think you have to check with your intuition always, but sometimes like trusting and just like going for things lets these wonderful stories unfold, you know. It's like linked to adventure.
Wow, that's awesome. Have you had experiences like these while traveling alone?
Yeah, because I've traveled a lot actually as a woman, and I know that I am really lucky that I'm a white woman, and I know my experience would be different otherwise. But I traveled right out of high school, and I spent lots of time, like years away. I went all over South America, and Australia, New Zealand, and into Morocco, and lots of Europe, and Sri Lanka later in university. So I've done lots of traveling, and I like traveling alone. I feel like there's this freedom when you like have a backpack on, or you like leave your spot and you can walk whichever direction you want to walk. And I think that people are more open to talking sometimes to a person who's alone, because they don't assume that you have a friend there, you have a partner there, or whatever it is. And so it makes you really open to experiences. And I would encourage everybody to travel alone. And you can do it in your own country if you want to. If you want to travel in Canada, there's some amazing places where we live, in the States, amazing places. Just like, you know, you can do a road trip, you can take a bus, but get outside of like your normal routine, because I think that helps spark us sometimes. If you ever feel flat, you can even just save up a little bit of cash and do a little thing that's something different. It will help reignite you. It always does for me anyway.
That makes sense. Like what does it mean to be free?
Well, David, if you have to ask me that question, I almost want to just like pull you into a space and be like, this is how it feels. Okay, to me, the feeling of being free is that I know that I am safe. I know that I can express openly and speak my truth. It's very fun. it's completely like it's physically open. And I feel the freest. One of the things I feel the freest doing is when I'm freestyling. So for me, that also comes with like channeling, because when you really freestyle, it's completely, you don't know really necessarily what you're even going to say. You might take a spark of inspiration, but then you're really like free flowing. And so you're connecting to something that's beyond. For me, it's quite a spiritual experience. I believe music, especially hip hop, in that type of community vibe, is definitely like a spiritual experience. And so when you're free, you let go, you surrender, and you trust. And you trust that it's going to be okay. And you're cool that like it might not work and you might not look super suave and you're doing it anyway. And I really wish that everybody could feel that in their lives on a regular basis, because feeling free is like what allows us to dance. It's what allows us to like sing in the shower. It's what allows us to like be brave and talking to someone we have a crush on. Like feeling free fuels so many of like the great parts of being alive.
That makes sense. Do you see that like be tied to relaxation? Like in order to be free in that way, do you have to be relaxed?
I don't know if you have to be relaxed, because I still get like, oh, if I'm like going into a cipher in a new space, or if there's like a battle, or even before a show. So I'm not relaxed, but I do feel safe. And I think that that is why it's really important that we are aware of our spaces, how we're treating people of color, people who are outside any binary, whatever that is, whether it's like your religion or sexual orientation. Like we need to make spaces safe for everybody, because we need all voices from all different people in all things. And so whether that's like a club or a park or a house party or whatever it is, if you're going to be, to me, a decent human being, which means if you have privilege of any kind, you're using that to be an active ally and making that space safe for people. So that means like for me, the way that I do that with Cypherclub is we don't have any rules, because we want it to be like a free expression place, but we do state that, you know, if you say something that's racist or problematic, or even just insensitive maybe towards mental health and those kind of things, we're going to call you on it and invite like a conversation about why, and hopefully allow you to correct your own behavior and want to do better. Because if people feel safe, then they can be free. They might not be relaxed because it's like scary to do new things, but they do know that they're safe there.
That makes sense. So Cypherclub is cool. I also like freestyling.
Yeah, you're good at it.
I'm curious. Thanks. I came to Cypherclub, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's what that was, Cypherclub.
Yeah, you were wearing a dope, I think, Hawaiian shirt, or you had a Hawaiian background. There was something very bright and flowery, and it just matched your flow. It was so on point.
Yeah, it was my Hawaiian shirt. I have a collection of Hawaiian shirts. I think I have like 6 of them.
Nice.
Some of them I got from Hawaii. Some of them I got from my recently passed away friend, Brandon Smitham. But and I have those. And but I'm curious to hear more about Cypherclub. Like why did you create this, or how did it become created, and like what does it stand for?
Cypherclub came out of me connecting with people and wanting people to come together into something, I guess, bigger. I really do love like organizing and putting on events and allowing people to showcase or play or try something. And so when I was going to university in Calgary, I would often put on these events in like our student center, and there would, you know, we'd start with like a drum circle, and then I'd have a DJ, and then there'd be performers or spoken word. And I just wanted people to have something to connect to in a live way. I think because my parents always took me to stuff like that as a kid. They were very like free range hippies, and we'd like go to, you know, little folk music festivals and always concerts and that kind of thing. So to me, it was just like, this is a cool part of being alive. And from there, I was connecting with different kind of rappers and DJs and performers. And to be honest, there's a bit of like a heartbreak piece in it, in that I went through the ending of a relationship that was very painful for me. I had to do a lot of learning to understand that. And I was really in a low place in my life. I was super mentally unwell and physically unwell. And I believe that heartbreak is a physical experience, because especially if you lose trust in a person, That's why it's so difficult when people don't just honestly communicate, because when you take away someone's trust, it's like the floor is ripped out from underneath them. And I remember having this time where I was like, I don't trust anything. I don't trust myself because I invested in this person. I don't trust my mom. Like, no one is who they say they are. So I was actually in like a really dark place when I started Cypherclub, because I needed a lifeline, and freestyling was something that allowed me to channel emotions and pour stuff out and just get through it and make sense of it and be raw. Freestyle is super raw. And when you have a circle and people are witnessing that and sharing in that space, it's really powerful. And I wanted to know other people's stories and emotions. And so that's where Cypherclub came. And I just started it. I was like, I'm going to rap every Wednesday. Everybody should come. And I was just lucky that I have dope DJ homies and people who jam with live instruments, and people just started coming, and it just grew. And so we've gone every Wednesday now for almost 4 years, and we've been on Zoom with the pandemic. But we're going to do some in-person events in the summer. I'm really excited. And it was a huge space of healing for me. And that community is really strong, really strong.
Wow, that's awesome. So you've been doing it for 4 years.
Almost, yeah. In the fall, in September, it'll be 4 years. Yeah.
And that's like kind of like 3 years in person, or 2.5.
Yeah. 3 years. Well, I would say like 3 years in person, then a year of COVID almost. So, because we were in person last summer, we just kind of were distanced at a park. So for the winter, we obviously had to go inwards to Zoom. But it's a curious time, the possibilities that COVID has allowed us to tap into with technology. And it's amazing how warm you can feel and hype you can feel even through a computer screen. That's blown my mind with it.
Totally. And I mean that it's high definition.
Yeah.
Like I can see your pores.
Right? It's all there.
And then it all just pours into my pores.
Right? The flow.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what are 3 things that you've learned about healing?
I have learned that healing is a recurring process. So you will heal and you'll think, oh, I'm done with this. This part's good. I'm good. And then something will come up that reminds you, and you have to go through it again. And I do like that wave analogy, that the waves become less big and they move further out, but like they still come. And you have to be in it and as present with it as you were at the very start when that happens. I recently lost my grandma, who was the one who helped me go to university, and we were really tight. She was one of my best friends. I still rock a lot of her clothes and jewelry. And that process of grieving her has been so wild, because when you feel it, it's like she just left, and it's been, 3 seasons. And so you just have to make space. So it's reoccurring. And for me, healing occurs in community. I really believe in that. I think there's individual work we need to do, but I do think that community is significant. In the work I'm lucky to do in Indigenous spaces, healing is done in community. The sweat is often a communal space. And I think that that's important for it. And the third thing for healing would be that it's, to me, very valuable to be in nature as part of that process. I think that Earth provides a grounding and a space and a container for healing to really naturally flow. And so when I'm feeling like I need to heal, I allow space for it, because it's going to come whether or not I want it to. And I go to people I trust. And I also make sure that I spend time in nature, because trees are great listeners. And the sky is beautiful, and it reminds us that there's more than us in this human rat race of it. Earth is very, reminds us just of the big picture of all of whatever this is, that's flowing all the time.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. So it always happens, keeps happening. Do you find that a connection between like mental and physical when these healing moments come, or like what is the experience actually like, and how do you sense when it's coming so you can give it space?
Oh, I wish I could sense it, because it usually hits you like out of nowhere, because it's almost like a memory piece. It'll be something that's gentle or kind of just drifts in, and then suddenly it's like, for me, I cry quite freely, so I'll just be suddenly weeping. It's like I have to teach soon, or I have a workshop I'm going to, or there's something, and I'm in this grief. And what I have found, though, is that if you ever feel that and you just let yourself, we don't usually actually cry for that long. You just need it in that moment. And then I will also turn to writing. Writing can be very therapeutic, just writing about what's coming through, and making space, if you can't deal with it in that moment, to come back to it that day. I really do think it's like within that 24 hours. So it's like, if you can't deal with it right now, do what you need to do. And then tonight, make sure you carve out some time for that to be there, because that's like the richness, is letting yourself feel. And you know what I learned from that experience that led me to Cypherclub was that gratitude for those things that hurt you, because really they remind you of your capacity to love and feel things like that. Any pain we ever have is like a reminder of like, wow, thank you that I have this capacity to love. Thank you that I have this capacity to feel so deeply or connect to these things or this person so deeply. And this pain is a reminder of how strong I am in doing that. And that was some advice somebody gave me that really stuck with me. And at first I was like, you're the worst. How do I ever find gratitude in this agony? But it really is true. That can be helpful. So just remind yourself like, wow, I'm strong for feeling this deeply. And I'm really grateful I can feel this deeply, because it means I'm empathetic and I'm alive and I'm learning.
Mm-hmm. Great. That makes sense. I recently, like 2 days ago, I hurt my neck like pretty bad.
Oh.
I was on a trampoline and I like rolled backwards and put my feet over my head, but with my arms down by my side. And then my neck hurt a lot. But I was kind of grateful for that pain, because like then for the next 2 days, I just had to focus purely on my physical comfort to like make sure that my like neck was like aligned and like supported, because if I was out of alignment, then it would hurt so much. But like I was able to just like keep breathing and then using my breath to like support my body until my neck was healed.
Oh, breath is huge. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right that there's this physical and spiritual piece always. Our bodies are what connect us to earth. It's like, it's very powerful to just put your feet on the ground and sit or stand strongly and take 3 breaths. Like the amount of healing that can do, and being conscious of your alignment, like you had to be with your neck. It's a very powerful way to move. If you could do that all day, every day, I think it would be you'd be very aware.
Yeah, totally. Do you do like any exercises or like routines that help you like develop your breath or awareness or things like that?
Yeah, I am very grateful to humans who come into my life as teachers. And I was introduced to breath work. And breath work can have different ways of forming. You can either do it intense, like a pacing, or you can just be aware that taking 10 breaths will help you to anchor. But I like doing things like that because it's easier for me than silent, still meditation. I love to meditate in a group because I think I feel the energy. But for me, like working my physical body out in the gym is definitely something that I'm pretty rigid about. If you ask any of my homies, I'm like rigid about it because it's very much for my mental health. I've learned that. Then I'm good to go. But if I don't do that, it's not as good. So and breath work, I would recommend to people, and just gently walking, like literally just walking and like dissipating like your energy through to the earth is like, and not always with music, sometimes just like taking in your environment around you is huge. And for me, the routine of eating has been something I've had to learn to like be a lot better at. Because our world sometimes is like, just go, go, go. And it's like, you can't like just eat a banana for breakfast. Like you really need to like eat well, and I really try to like be vegetarian as much as possible. And so, yeah, like your routine has to start with basic care of your body, like go to bed, sleep, freaking eat things that are good for you. Don't be jacked on caffeine, and like try and move your body a bit every day. Like stretch, dance, do those things. But that can be work. I literally think it could be a full-time job just to fully take care of ourselves. So like do the best you can.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I feel that. my mom really likes to go for walks. She goes on hikes for like 10 miles at a time. And then like she went on vacation for like 2 weeks or like 1 week, I think, and walked 50 miles. So
Oh
like
my
almost
gosh,
10
I
miles
love
every
her.
day.
That's
Yeah.
rad.
That, but it's like, it's all she does though. Like she's like, I'm going hiking. And yeah, but she likes to keep her body moving. That's how she feels free.
Nice. Much respect to David's mom. Shout out. Shout out
Thanks.
my mom.
Also, thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Cool. So, how can people prepare to create social connections in the new world that's emerging?
Wow. I think that if we all could ask ourselves that question on the daily, that would be a great part of it. Because to me, it's like the meaningful connections from like the little things. So it's like I really make a conscious effort to physically go into spaces. I don't really love the concept of like everything being drive through or pickup. I really try and go in to like physically connect with humans. And when you're at a till or if you are at a drive through, whatever, it's like take a minute and be like, look up from your phone or your debit card and be like, hi, like, how's your day going? Like, I see you, I'm looking in your eyes. And it's amazing to watch. Sometimes people are like, whoa, I've had people be like, wow, I've been working for 8 hours and no one's asked me that. It's like, how has that occurred? So I think like every time you're in front of a human, treat them as like divine. You know what I mean? Like pretend, because we're all important. And for some reason, we act like some of us are not as much, or we're too busy in our own thing to really value people. So to me, it's like those micro interactions that are really significant to then us all feeling like we can connect easier. And I have learned and heard that to really form community, it is about consistency and over time. Like it isn't something that just can happen overnight. So you kind of have to choose to invest in something and like really show up for it consistently over time so that it can grow, because that's what makes us trust something, you know? It probably goes back, if I think in my anthropological brain, to like, you know, how securely we would plot our stops on a big journey. It's where we knew there was going to be a village, you know, and where we knew they would share food with us. We knew we are going to be able to go there. So that consistency is huge still for us, like developing trust and then sharing the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, interesting. That makes sense. Doing the same things. And it like, do you find that your sense of belonging also comes in waves? Like, do you have times where you're like more withdrawn or feel lonelier than other times where there's more things happening, or like, how do you experience that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, welcome to being human. It doesn't matter if you're like the most positive and most outgoing. And especially with social media, it probably looks like I'm always, you know, people are like, you're always everywhere and all of these things. But in a way, one of the things that I really got into my research about is I would love to uncover the antidote to loneliness. I think that loneliness is such a cause of human suffering, and it links to addiction and it links to mental health. I think it links to a lot of maybe the violence that we see. And so those moments when I feel lonely, I am learning to sit in them. It was interesting for me with COVID because I'd moved to start school at the University of Saskatchewan for my master's. And at the same time, my roommate, who I loved, we moved here together to go to school. She had to go back to Alberta with her family. And for the first time, honestly, in my entire life, I was alone. I have never, you know, I've always had roommates or partners or lots of people and lots of like things at school and in traveling, just always people around me. And those first weeks, it was like, okay, shadow side, full immersion. It was like, what am I afraid of here? Why do I never make space for this? And realizing like how uncomfortable I was with just like being chill. And training myself to like not call somebody, not go on my phone, like just sit. And so I think that loneliness is always a big catalyst for really amazing poetry for me. I write a lot of really beautiful poetry when I feel lonely. And it reminds me that life is impermanent and that I can feel so full and so richly connected to this great space of people. And that doesn't mean that feeling will last. And that you've got to be kind to everybody, because when we all know what that feeling feels like, when you have a day where you're like, I am alone in the world, like nobody cares about me, I'm alone in the world, what am I doing, I'm behind, I'm failing, any of those negative self-talk things. And you never know who you're interacting with. They might be having one of those days. And if you do that, of looking in their eyes and just being like, hey, how are you? Like, I'm interested in your tattoo, or I love rings. So I love that ring you're wearing, whatever that might be. That might be the only meaningful connection they have that whole day. And those moments are really important. Yeah. So be in the loneliness, because it's part of being a human. We are born alone and we do die alone, even though I think we go back to something that's much bigger and way beyond the concept of separation. So that's comforting to me. And nature helps. Again, if I feel really lonely and I go walk in a forest, I really don't feel alone. I do think that nature is a huge comfort. You're not really alone if there's birds, or there's a butterfly you're watching, or you're watching water move. Yeah, it reminds me.
Or a baby bobcat.
Or a baby bobcat. Less chill, but still invigorating.
My parents ran into a baby bobcat in nature recently.
Oh my
they were hiking.
gosh. That reminds me of that crazy cougar video where the cougar mom is like stalking that guy back out of like the canyon when he comes up on her two babies. That was wild. So I'm glad your parents.
Ooh, I haven't seen that. Wait, how do I find that? I need to send that to them.
Oh yeah, you do. I'll link you.
Okay. Yeah, they found a baby bobcat next to the path, and then my dad poked it with a stick.
Why?
They wanted to see if the tail was a bobtail, because bobcats have like a bob for a tail. It's like kind of cut off.
Oh, wow. To me, I'm like, any form of nature interaction like that, it's like reverence and respect always, whether it's like a raven or a cougar, I'm gonna have respect, because there's a lot of messages, right, that come through Earth and nature.
Yeah. And don't touch it, right?
No.
And definitely don't move it. Like if there's a baby animal, like don't pick it up and think that you're saving it, because you're just like interfering with it.
Yeah. Send it love and trust and move. Yeah.
So if you could teach everybody in the world one concept, what would it be?
Well, those questions are hard because people in the world need such different things.
Oh, true.
Yeah, because like I think in a lot of the work that I do, I realize that it's like there are people in Canada on our reserves, because of the colonial genocide that occurred here, that still don't have fresh water, so it's kind of hard for me then, as like a privileged white person, to be like, I would teach the concept of unconditional love, like I would probably give that concept to people that are in like a privileged, safe space where they go to sleep every night and they feel safe, those kind of things. They can wake up and shower without thinking about it. But I think that, I guess, to everybody, if I had to pick one thing, maybe trust. Because I think that trust can kind of be a pillar or a beacon of light, or whatever we need it to be in that way. So trust, just that things are going as they are, and you're doing the best you can with your current awareness, as is everybody else, no matter if they seem really ignorant. So yeah, try and be trusting.
Cool, trusting. And also, you kind of snuck in there, water is important.
Yeah, water, and people having access to things that allow like baseline enjoyment, or like baseline ability to like engage with the world is like really valuable. And we don't make that for a lot of our Indigenous communities in Canada, and it's something that like needs and has to change,
Yeah. How is it changing, or how can it change?
It changes through awareness, number one, and people checking their own privilege and racism and the judgments that we put on people, because we assume that they are the way they are because of one thing, when it's probably something else. In terms of intergenerational trauma and the resiliency that is displayed, is like, it's actually mind-blowing when you think about what we've done in our colonial spaces, in our colonial world. So the resiliency for some groups just to exist is something that I think, yeah, not only to bring awareness to that and celebrate that, so we're not telling these same kind of detrimental stories. And that when you have like a platform, use your voice in a good way. And once you have access to abundance, find ways to link that into the community. For me, it's been about putting my energy into youth work. I work with a lot of youth organizations focused on Indigenous, also inner city youth, and urban Indigenous youth, because they have really powerful stories and they're incredibly talented. I have like 15-year-old Indigenous rappers who would absolutely school like a 25-year-old who's been doing it for 10 years, you know, from other parts of the city. So I really believe in upholding and supporting the youth so that they know that their voice is valuable and that their stories need to be told, and making space for them. You know, there'll be a point for all of us who have privilege to like move over and like do that. When it's your chance to do that, do that.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. Do you watch anime?
I love anime, and I'm such a grateful human that I can be proud of that now, because it used to be like not dope. And then I don't know, I watched it happen over the years. I mean, anime's always been dope, but like it wasn't cool. Do you know what I mean? And then slowly it actually started to really link with like hip hop, kind of like around the emergence of trap. There was like this emergence of anime aligning in like hip hop spaces and just spaces in general that were seen as like sexy and the cool thing and like up and coming and fashion, all these spaces. So yeah, I love anime because it's like an escape. I don't watch any TV. My parents didn't have a TV growing up. I never watched Netflix. I'm like an alien, but I do make time to watch animes, and I'm lucky that I have friends who recommend series that I would enjoy. You know, I'm kind of a wuss, so I don't watch a lot of graphic anime, but
makes sense. I've like hardly ever watched any. I've watched like Yu-Gi-Oh!
Cool.
And Pokemon, but those are like the only two, and they kind of don't count, or maybe they do, but I've never watched anything other than those.
Nice. I recommend a really cool series called Kinjo's Journey, and it's got like this androgynous character. You never really know if they're like male or female, and they just move through different countries, and it has some really profound lessons. And it's just like so simple and really, really interesting.
For the lessons, let you watch it for the lessons.
Yeah, part of it. Yeah.
Nice. And what about like Dragon Ball Z?
Okay, well, this is a disclaimer. So everyone I feel like is always really hyped because they're like, you voiced Goku, but it's like Star Wars in that I voice Kid Goku, who also I love because I really love the Dragon Ball series. So I voiced Kid Goku in Dragon Ball, and then he becomes a grown up in Dragon Ball Z, which is like the most famous. And then he gets turned back into a kid again, but he has a tail for Dragon Ball GT. And so I voice him in those two kid spaces. And what I love about Dragon Ball more so than GT is that it was a very like quite whimsical show. Do you know what I mean? It's like just this like amazing little human that's flying around in this cloud, doing good, eating obnoxiously, like hanging out. Like I just feel like Goku would chill with anybody. You know what I mean? Like he could literally chill with anybody. And that's what I loved about that show the most. But I actually watched very little Dragon Ball Z. I haven't seen much of it.
But but you're not in Dragon Ball Z.
No,
you're in the other two.
I've seen that.
Okay.
I know the two other series really well from voicing them and watching them, but yeah.
Yeah. And have you did you adopt any of Goku into your own personality?
Oh, huge. I think that was such a healthy thing for me because I was a weird kid and I got into voicing anime, and Goku was definitely probably my big break. I discovered my boy voice before that, which was huge, but Goku was probably the most famous thing, obviously. And I didn't know that it was such a big deal when it happened. But I think that those characteristics of like being rambunctious, being outspoken, kind of rooting for the underdog in the ways that you move, believing in things like magic and possibility. Like Goku's like, yeah, we'll do it. What do we got to do? Who do I got to fight? No big deal. Let's go. I do think that those are things that are in my personality. And it was tricky. I talk about this a lot in interviews, but it's like, I was like, going through puberty as a young girl. I was getting really heavily bullied when kids found out I was voicing boy characters. They were like, that's so weird. Like, what does that mean? Like, you want to be a boy, you want to have a penis. It was just like a weird space. And I was just like, Goku isn't even a gendered identity. Goku is like this being, this character, and that's honestly how I see most humans and how I see myself. It's like we're characters. Like I really try and not like gender restrict people immediately, because you don't know, and it kind of takes away your opportunity to just see the full version of whatever this character is presenting as. And so I feel like it's brought a lot of that into my life too, realizing like you are beneficial in any space you want to be in, because you're going to bring an energy there. So I'll back you up. If someone else doesn't want to make space for you there, you got me. Call me and I'll be like, yep, make space for it.
So do you look for the person behind the character? Or can like one person have multiple characters?
Yeah, I think so. I think because I learned that through voicing anime that I had to draw on very different things at different points in the series. And you can't help but morph into it, especially with Dragon Ball GT. It's like I was in the studio, like, you know, sometimes 16, 25 hours a week. I was there with Goku more than I was in my other life. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like everything was blurring. I was dreaming about it. So I think that, yeah, I learned that we do get to kind of take leadership of who we want to be in the world. So you can reinvent your character anytime. Try and be authentic at that. But if something's not working for you, you're allowed to question and reconsider. That's why going to new places is great, because it can allow you to step fully into that character you really want to present in the world as like the best version of you.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're doing voice acting for Goku, like, do you feel free in that? Like, does that feel free? Because you're kind of like doing what somebody else is saying, right? But like,
yeah,
I don't know.
For me, I felt very free doing it. Anime is like, the reason I think that my parents were grateful to guide me into that is because I'm very tall. You don't see it when I'm online, but I'm like over 6 feet tall. And so there was some modeling stuff when I was younger too, but it was weird. It's a weird space. It's all about how you look. Whereas voicing anime is like acting in this way that's nobody knows who you are. So it's very healthy in that it's not about what you look like or how you're presenting. It's about like how weird, how over the top, how extreme. Like when I go into Goku mode and I'm like, "Hi, David, I'm Kid Goku. Kamehameha!" Like I'm being pretty free. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm all out there, and you're doing reacts. You're like, you're like fighting. So it's very free. I think it's what helped me to like, yeah, have my walls open for then freestyling, because it's like I've done some really weird things in a vocal booth. So like whatever, like I don't care about releasing my words, channeling to you. I've Kamehameha many times, so like bring it on.
Yeah. Have you used that in your raps, or like the or like, you know, the
I've been
ad-libs?
told that I growl a lot, like especially if I'm performing live, or I'll be like, rah, I do stuff like that. I think it's just like when I'm really feeling it, it just comes out. So yeah, there's probably some of that in there.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you ever do guided meditations?
Like I participate in them. Yeah, I do. Yep. I haven't led one yet, but I love my voice. I do host like moon gatherings with like a group of women. And I think guided meditation is a really beautiful way to like really listen to somebody and let yourself go.
Would you be down to do a guided meditation right now on maybe how I can develop the generosity of my love?
I love this. Oh my gosh. So you want me to lead, or you're going to lead me?
No, you're just going to lead me right now.
Okay, this is our closing thing. I'm going to lead you to the generosity of your love. I love that because I feel like you got that off my love EP. Okay, this will be a short meditation. So what we're going to connect to today is the feeling of being generous. So sit in a still space, however you feel comfortable. If you can put your feet on the floor, open your palms, stretching upwards, and close your eyes and just invite some breath to fill your body. And breathe out any stress, anxiety, any tight feelings, and breathe in love and expansive possibilities. Breathe in self-worth. Breathe out. Breathe in. And when we're thinking about being generous, think about the way that nature gives every cycle. And there are moments of quiet in winter, changes of season that may seem unexpected. But the sun is such a beacon in that it always rises. The impermanence always comes back to light, even after darkness, and that there's always new growth, even when you do not see it. There are things below the surface, there are roots digging down, there's part of you that is pushing to connect to the light. And that when we break through that surface and we connect to the light, that is when we can draw on our sense of generosity coming from a place of abundance. Because when you breathe in love, you are connecting to abundance, and abundance in the form of all that you have to give, that you are the only unique being that exists as you. You are a miracle of human consciousness, and you existing just as you are is enough, and it's a gift. So continue to breathe in the light and the love with every breath, and move forward in your day knowing that you are worthy and you deserve to be here, and we need you on the planet, and you are important, and you are always seen by the light that exists in the universe that is beyond all of our physical space. You are always seen, worthy, and loved. Go forth and be generous.
Amen.
And seen.
That felt like a prayer at the end. I wanted to say amen.
Amen. Thanks for inviting me to do that. That was cool. That was a new creative thing.
That was great. That felt amazing.
Nice. Cool. What a great ending.
So we're at 2:00.
We made it.
We did it together.
We did.
Let's give a quick round of applause. Does Goku have like a celebration, or like what's Z the Freeze like celebration ad lib call out kind of noise?
Oh, nice. I just celebrate with gratitude. So anyone who knows me knows that at the end of anything or in closing, I just ask people what are they grateful for. So I'm going to ask you, David, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for oxygen, carbon dioxide. I'm grateful for people that guide others and that put their wisdom and share their life experiences with others. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to leave my comfort zone and learn new things. And I'm grateful for the chocolate covered strawberries that my girlfriend made for me yesterday.
Oh my gosh, I love it. You are so good at this. Some people are like, oh, I don't know. You just like jumped right in. That totally matches your vibration. I feel like that's really cool.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, wait, can I ask you one more question before we go? So this is, wait, can I ask you 2 more questions?
Sure.
I don't know. Okay. So the first question is, like, what are 3 fantastic experiences, like shows or documentaries or books or classes that have shaped your world?
Oh, I don't even know if I can say that. But I would say that CBC radio, because my parents often have the radio on, and it's the radio here in Canada that has really amazing like podcasts, really, really incredible journalists, and those types of shows. That's been huge for me, getting exposed to those types of things. Books of poetry. It's a thing when I started traveling, even really young, I would go to like secondhand bookstores and pick up like books of poetry. And I'm always inspired by that. And for a third thing, meaningful independent films. I think everybody in the world needs to see Queen and Slim. It's like a movie that came out kind of recently. And I literally think it's a perfect movie. I think everything about it is immaculate, from the acting to the music to the shots to the ending. It's just immaculate. So I'm throwing it out there.
Awesome. So wait, was that 3? You said
Yes. Books of
CBC
Poetry,
Radio,
Queen and Slim,
books of
Good
poetry.
Radio.
Oh, and independent movies,
Yeah.
books of poetry, CBC Radio, like Queen and Slim.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And wait, can I ask you to share some of your poetry?
Oh man, I don't even know what I would share. Anyone can, I share lots of it on Instagram. So at Z the Free, there's lots of poetry there. Yeah, and I feel like I do spoken word events, so catch me in that realm. But I feel like sometimes spoken word, this is why I love freestyle, because spoken word is often quite heavy and raw, and freestyle can be the same way, but I really like play and joy. And so that's why I like playing in hip hop and freestyle, because I can be like this like rowdy, nasty woman that's just like, rah. Whereas in spoken word, I feel like it's almost like a different entity that I take on. And she's not hanging out here today.
Totally.
Yeah.
Do you offer experiences that people can take with you, like either online or in person?
Yeah, absolutely. I do lots of workshops. So there's a wide range, everything from things around finding your voice, to like very specific anime type things, to things around developing skills in rap and hip hop, like very tangible ways to, if you want to learn to rap, how you can tap into that. And then there's kind of pieces around freestyle as a form of living. Do you know what I mean? So it's like bringing freestyle into your everyday life. And we do it all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like when you and I are speaking, we're actually freestyling. And so it's kind of like those types of pieces of teaching people how to go with that movement and trust in the freestyle of life. But in terms of like in-person stuff, it would be, coming to things like Cypher, moon goddess gatherings where I am. I think women should always come together in circle, and men should also come together in circle. And if you're outside either of those binaries, coming in either circle space, you feel safe, because there's something really unique about each of us, and so we have different lived experiences based on the bodies we come with. And if people are curious, they can hit me up on social media. At zthefree, zthefree@gmail.com. And one-on-one stuff I love. And I also love group sessions. They're very different, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, totally. So freestyling is talking normally. What if people like, instead of saying they should say like a, or like yeah, or like something else that people say when they're freestyling?
They could. What I find often that people say when they're learning to freestyle is they'll be like, I don't know what I'm saying. And I just love it when they say that, because it's like, it's so honest. And it means they're really trying to freestyle, because they're not thinking, they're just like speaking. So,
Mm-hmm. Wow. Do you think there's there a magic key in that phrase? I don't know what I'm saying.
Maybe, because it's like none of us know what we're doing, really. Like we all pretend like we know, but like nobody has this figured out. That's the magic. So like you can do what you want with it in your life experience. There really is like no right or wrong way.
Cool. And then the last question I want to ask you is, based on everything you know, what is the secret to becoming a famous rapper?
Oh my God. Do you know what? Honestly, there's 2 ways to become famous or known. And I think one is to craft your work in a very particular way. Say you want to be a rapper who wins a Juno, if we're talking about Canadian music scene, you're going to craft your work to be a form of art. And that's what's going to speak to you and allow you to be famous. Or you can go the other direction, which is you can be a really interesting character, and people are curious about who you are as a person, and they listen to your music as a result of who you are. And I do think that being famous requires a certain way of moving in the world that is good or bad, and I'm nowhere near that. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm like known, but in a way that I really enjoy. That's why anime is also dope, because it's like you're kind of secret in the fame. And I think that if you want to be famous, it's good to just really be aware of what that would mean for your life, you know what I mean, and how you'd actually handle that. Because I think I've had waves of being famous real quick. Like I was all over the media when I opposed to this gentleman wearing a Trump hat, and it was crazy viral, and it was insane. For like a year of my life, it was insane in a very negative way. And I think that people think that being famous just means you're rich and everyone loves you, but it also means you have a ton of haters. You know what I mean? Like if you look at anything that even people we all love, like Kendrick Lamar, like there's people who hate him really viciously, and you have to be really strong, I think, spiritually, to like withstand that kind of attention and that kind of response to everything that you do, you know? So just always be working on yourself, because then when fame hits, you'll hopefully be grounded enough to like not lose yourself.
Totally. Wait, what's the story behind that video? Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd talk about it. It like the quick summary is we were on a university campus, and this guy was wearing a Make America Great Again hat, and I had just been speaking in a class with a woman who's a hijab wearing beautiful soul, and she was saying that she had seen him around campus and was feeling unsafe. And I was just like, how could you wear that hat? I you know, sometimes I'm very naive, you know what I mean? It was like, how could you wear that hat on a university campus, like where, you know, you have people from everywhere, like. And it's a very tricky thing, because free speech is something that should be protected, and we're all, I do believe that we're doing the best with our current awareness. But in that moment, on that particular day, I saw him and went up to him and said, you got to take that hat off. You can't wear that. It's hate speech. And I really do feel that the actions that occurred in America back up that feeling that came with that sentiment of Make America Great Again, which we knew from the very start. I think it is hate speech, and it's a rhetoric that's incredibly dangerous to a lot of populations. And so anyway, we were having a debate, and somebody filmed it, and it went on the internet, and it just like exploded, because it was right when Trump was campaigning, and it exploded in a very dark way. But I mean, I made it out of that, but it was really touch and go for a while. It was crazy. There was like police involved and bomb threats to the university. And it was a really wild experience of how strong hate can be in the world, and how much hate will push back. And that's why I try and be so vocal with love, because we need that. And that's what I've chosen to keep me strong. You know what I mean? Is love. So I gotta link to that, while recognizing that hate exists and that there's a lot we got to do every day.
That makes sense. Yeah, I saw your music video, Love Each Other, on there. Love Each Other on YouTube. And then in the comments section, it's like
tons. You'll see. Oh yeah. And it stunted a bit of my artistic expression for a long time. Like I'm just getting over that. Like I put out my first EP last fall, because I know that whatever I ever put out into the world will just be attacked. And it makes it hard, because I love collaborating, and I don't want to bring other people into that shit. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I want to collab on this great song, but just so you know, there'll be this herd of angry Trump supporters that'll attack.
I mean, it could be a good thing. You should use that to your advantage. Be like,
totally,
no matter what, I got these people, they're going to watch this. They're interested in what I'm doing.
So I've learned that you can take any energy and be like, you know what, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna work some things and put it into this instead. So yeah, it is all just attention. So there's interesting ways and things that come with being famous, and just be grounded in good people always, and that'll help.
Totally. Well, Z the Free, it was a pleasure getting to know you today.
Yeah.
Is there anything?
So much, David? You were an excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Wait, can you say that again? I kind of talked over your compliment.
I was just saying that you're an excellent interviewer. I feel like I do lots of these types of conversations, and some of them I genuinely really enjoy being in. And this was like hands down one of those spaces. So lots of gratitude to you for creating that space.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, this was a great conversation. I learned a lot, and I hope our viewers learned a lot. And I just want to leave some space here at the end if there's anything that you want to say to the people that are still with us.
I would just say that it is really important to be aware of the realities of our world, and especially right now in Canada. I just want to draw attention to the fact that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which has put forward 94 calls to action in working through the Indigenous genocide that occurred in our country. Only 9 of those calls have been met of the 94. And I think that it is all important that we all respect and honor that we are all treaty people, or if it's unceded territory, we are guests there, to the Indigenous nations. And before we can even think of reconciliation, there has to be truth. So make space for truth and make space for healing, and try and live with love, and stay strong in that.
Great. And do you have any upcoming online cipher clubs?
Yeah, there will be one tonight. There's one every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 7 till 9.
What is that Pacific time?
I think you're 2 hours later than us, so I think it would be 9 till 11.
It's 2 p.m. for me.
Yeah.
Right now it's 2 p.m. For you in Mountain Time, it's?
For me right now, it's 3. So we're an hour away. Yeah.
Okay.
So you could totally join it. You can check out Cypherclub YYC. I always post reminders, and then just Google the time change and link in through Zoom. That would be really great to have some members linked across. We have some homies from the States and all across Canada. So that would be cool.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. And go ahead. You were going to say something.
All. I was just going to say thank you. Yeah, just lots of gratitude. This was super fun. And I'm always open to meeting new humans. So feel free to hit me up with other questions. Check out the Love EP. Go watch a Kid Goku episode if you haven't. And take care of yourselves and respect the earth. Super important. Nice.
I love the earth. I like to walk outside on the earth with no shoes and no socks on.
Yes. Everybody should practice that. Much respect to that.
Okay, cool. Zither Free, thank you so much. Wait, favorite Kid Goku episode? If I'm watching one only, which one?
Oh gosh, I literally can't pick one. I can't. I would just say just start at the start and watch it, as it unfolds, because it's all good.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Thank you again, and goodbye. I'll see you maybe tonight.
That would be awesome. I would love to rap with you again.
Nice.
I'll hit you up.
Thank you. Okay. Bye. Oh, and come to Oakland too. We have drum circles. Those
I'm in. I really will. So this is the thing. You're also welcome anytime out Western Canada. We got you.
Awesome. We can walk around the lake. We can climb trees together. We can go to a drum circle, and maybe some kind of ciphers. There's stuff that it's going on.
We'll start it.
All right. Bye.
You're dope. Thanks.
Focus on love. Love what's in focus. Aim for above because the ceiling's focus. Focus on love. Love what's in focus. Aim for above because the ceiling is bogus. Focus on love. Love what's in focus. Aim for above because the ceiling's bogus. Focus on love. Love what's in focus. Aim for above because the ceiling is bogus. I wanna lay down a never-ending road. We never go to